Hey everybody, this is Bond Diesel, and this is gonna be the first entry into a new series on YouTube. I'm gonna give a shot. Um, it may be a short and sweet one, just a few entries, or maybe I'll expand it to the original game. But what I'm going to do is look at some of the new intel from the West Side Piers and the Division 1.8 update, and I'm gonna play them all, and then I'm going to kind of discuss them. So I'm going to do one person at a time. I'm going to start off with the rogue, and I'm going to end with who I think everyone should know I'm going to end with. There's some in the middle that aren't quite as interesting, maybe, but I still think they're worth talking about, especially a little special one from about Rick Velassi. There may be more going on there than maybe we thought about. So I am going to start off by showing you, if you didn't already know, in 1.8 they opened up the West Side Piers and they added 30 or 40 new phone recordings. So if you go into the phone recordings and go all the way to the bottom, you see all the old ones, and I may end up going back to these if this series is somewhat successful, but we'll see. So you've got Come Together, LMB Status Report, Growing Wild, Calling the Other Side, On Velassi's Trail, and Keener's Confession. So I almost hesitated to say Keener's Confession, but you can read it so you know it's there. So I think what I'm going to start with is the Calling the Other Side. I'm going to play these all real quick, and then we will move on to some discussion.
I don't need to explain myself to anybody. This is not a plea for understanding, nor am I looking to justify what I have done. Choices. I made them, and I'm comfortable with what I did. No, I'm recording this because I don't know how long I'm going to last out here, and someone should hear this story. Someone should hear the other side. I started out a shade agent, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to go in and save the city. But you know something? This city doesn't want to be saved. At least not unless it's on its own terms. And what we were trying to do was too little, too late. There were too many dead, too few of us, and someone was picking off agents like it was going out of style. Whatever we were doing, it wasn't working. I got out, loaded up on gear, and then went on the run in the dark zone. Someone came looking for me, another agent. I could tell he just wanted the gear. Didn't care if he brought me back dead or alive. When he got close enough, I dropped him. And you know what I felt? Absolutely nothing. I hadn't killed one of the good guys. I hadn't killed anyone who was part of anything I was. And that gave me an idea. The dark zone is full of abandoned equipment if you know where to look. I know where to look. I took all the abandoned shade commo gear I could get my hands on and set up shop in my hidey hole. No, I'm not going to tell you where it is. Besides, if you're hearing this, you've likely found it anyway. So I took that gear and set up my own network, tapping into shade frequencies and targeting users ID'd as rogues. Why? Because I didn't like being hunted, and I thought a little intel could go a long way for someone on their own out there. I don't trust anyone. Out here, you can't trust anyone. They call us rogue for a reason. We're all just out here trying to survive. And as soon as you start building something bigger than yourself, someone's gonna want to come along and knock it down. So I do what I do, which makes me useful to everyone out here. Hopefully that gives them a reason to keep me around rather than puts a bullseye on my back. Where am I? Doesn't matter. What's next? More of the same. I'm going to keep broadcasting as long as I can, sharing intel that gives everyone out there just a little better chance of making it to tomorrow. I'm not looking for trouble, but if trouble finds me, I'll be ready.
Okay, so there is the first one I'm going to do here, and then if you listen through, you realize that It's basically a an agent who went rogue, giving at least her side of the story. Maybe not necessarily every rogue side, aka Keener, but giving her side. What I'm actually curious about, let's look for something real quick. So her last name was Clark. Let's see. I don't have all of them unlocked on here. Um, so I would be curious now when you find these missing agents, you always find their watches, and we never. In theory, she should still have her watch. She probably still has all of her shade equipment. Um, but what I think is really cool is I don't really think there's anything too enlightening about the story with her. The one little detail I think is interesting though is how she said that someone was hunting rogue agents and picking them off. I don't know if she's talking about Keener. I don't really feel like that was his journey necessarily. She might be talking about the hunters because she is specifically talking about being in the dark zone. Though it does kind of make me wonder why her phone recordings are here, you know? So, I don't know. I think it's an interesting one. I don't really have anything substantial to say about it. I will with some of the other ones, but I think it's just a really cool insight into why people left, how they aren't all necessarily evil. Obviously, the way that the rogue system works out as we play it isn't exactly this kind of interesting, kind of cute idea that she's given out of the people just trying to survive. For purposes of gameplay, it's a PvP idea. Um, but I really think it's kind of interesting when she talks about like the agent who tries to come and find her, and wasn't really sure if she didn't really care if he was coming to take her alive or dead. That kind of stuff. Um, I think. I think this was kind of the start of an interesting series here of looking at some of this new intel, um, because she gives us a perspective we haven't gotten before, and kind of makes you think a little bit more about what really happened with the Shade agents and why they all, kind of did what they did. I think it is really cool too to think that I like the intel even in the base game from the people who are still alive as far as we know. As far as we know, she's still holding up. And if I remember correctly, if someone wants to post in the comments or on my Twitter, I believe you hear her either in the West Side Piers or in the dark zone now, or maybe we were before, or maybe we're not at all. But I swear I remember running around somewhere and seeing rogue transmitter or rogue dispatch or something down at the bottom. So I'm kind of curious to maybe when you go rogue, you see something along those lines. So if someone wants to comment or kind of start that discussion in the comments, I think that'd be great. As I said, I think I'm going to hit up all of the new intel in some capacity. These are just kind of ad hoc. I'm just kind of jumping on and just going to do these. I'm not too worried about trying to script anything out for them. So I'll probably do the LMB status report as the next one. I think that one's kind of interesting, and it kind of gives you some idea of why all the factions are working together, and it's not necessarily to fight JTF or the Shade agents, but we'll talk about that more later. So if you liked what you saw, please subscribe, please give me a thumbs up, please drop a comment on here and on Twitter. Make sure to follow me on there. Check out my Words with Bond interview series, check out my Division Shots screenshot series, and you can check me out on Twitch as well. So until then, I will talk to you guys soon.